Hey, this is Patrick.Casale. I'm coming to you from live up in my office area of my house. I did a free presentation on imposter syndrome Saturday morning, and I wanted to be able to offer it today as well, just because it's Monday, things can feel really challenging, and I want to start off on the right foot. This is a little bit lengthy, but if you feel like watching or chiming in or just kind of checking in and out, please feel free to do so. So I hope you can see what I'm looking at. So imposter syndrome is really something that comes up when we're talking about achievement or the ability to step outside of our comfort zone. I'm Patrick.Casale. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, a licensed clinical addiction specialist, travel influencer, and therapist coach. I own Casale Coaching and Consulting, Resilient Mind Counseling, and Empowered Escape. So my story with imposter syndrome, as many people's stories, it's more about stepping outside of your comfort zone and betting on yourself. I worked at a community mental health agency for a really long time, and I worked a lot of hours, and I was in a lot of different leadership roles, and I was just burnt out. I needed something to be different. I wanted to leave, and I wanted to start my own private practice. And the things that came up for me were like, you're not going to be successful at that. You don't know what you're doing. You don't have the skill set to start your own business. You've kind of lucked into the success that you've had so far, and a lot of feelings of insecurity. So I start my practice. Things are going really well. They feel like things are going really successfully. I'm getting client calls. I am staying really busy. But it always feels like you kind of lucked into this. You didn't really work very hard to make this happen. You're going to be found out eventually that this isn't something that is sustainable. And I think that that's something that, is really a challenge for people to feel like, hey, I don't know how to do this thing that I'm trying to create. So that was a hard thing for me. And every time a client canceled or left or didn't show up, it was kind of like, this is because you're not good at your job. This is all because you're not good at this. So fast forward 3 years down the road, and I started a coaching business to help other therapists start their private practices. And then imposter syndrome comes up again. You don't have anything to offer these coaches. You don't have anything to offer these therapists. Why start a business when other people are doing this already? And what is going to be different about your own? And that can really be paralyzing, and that can be really a fearful place when we're kind of getting in our own way in terms of growth. So imposter phenomenon is a researched concept. In 1974, Dr. Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes kind of went through the research, and what they found was a lot of successful and accomplished women felt very fraudulent intellectually and professionally in their fields, mainly because they had to adapt and be around a lot of white men and felt out of place, as if I just lucked into this. Women, racial minorities, and LGBTQ individuals may feel like they're living in a high achievers version of Sesame Street song, one of these things is not like the other. Individuals who don't match the majority of a group or culture often feel illegitimate, fake, despite their qualifications and accomplishments. Really recognizing that when people who are not of the majority have to fit in or conform or be a part of, it can feel really ostracizing, like I don't belong here. How did I end up here? There's kind of this concept with being raised in a household where people are telling you, you're so smart. You're so smart. You got an A on this paper. You really did, you did a great job on this group presentation. And that can set this mentality up that the only way that we can show that we are good or that we are deserving of praise is to be successful at something. Early on, that starts a really hard kind of process to kind of develop and navigate through. And then you get a C on a paper, or you fail, or you're having trouble in school because math just isn't your thing, and it's what's wrong with you? Why can't you do these things? I thought you were so smart. And thinking about how conflicting that feels. Praise versus criticism is a really conflicting concept. So being overpraised or over criticized and kind of being caught in the middle of that process as a child or a teenager who's trying to find their way, and then getting praise when something is accomplished, but getting criticized when something doesn't go well. Again, setting that precedent that the only way I exhibit value is by saying, I have to succeed, I have to achieve. And we lose sight on the process of even trying. Failure versus achievement, again, just something that really comes up for a lot of us. It's either a failure or an achievement. We lose sight of the middle ground, the process in between. And more so, the process of trying, the process of putting yourself out there. And maybe it doesn't go as planned, but the fact that you tried, you put yourself out there, you were willing to grow and learn from the experience, which is really important. Ways that imposter syndrome shows up. Am I good enough? That's a big one. As an expert, like I have to be the expert at this, otherwise I can't do it. So I have to kind of critique and critique and critique. And if I don't master this, then I can't put it out to the world, which can obviously be very debilitating. Soloist mentality, going about this on your own. Only doing things for you and recognizing like I can't ask for help because I'm supposed to know this by myself. That makes it really hard to admit when something isn't going well or that you need assistance with something. Perfectionism and imposter phenomenon or syndrome go hand in hand. So really feeling like I have to perfect this. I have to do this over and over and over again. Otherwise, it will not be successful. I can't put it out to the world until it's perfect. And you could see how that could really kind of hold you back because unrealistic expectations, right? Like we can't perfect something. We cannot get to the place where something is perfect. But in that person's mind, it's like, this is just not good enough. How can I put this out to the world if it feels like it's not perfect or perfected? Again, achievement oriented, just always working towards achieving something, always working towards that end goal. Fraud alert, feeling like the fraud police are going to come knocking on your door and let you know that you're just not good enough, that you're an imposter, that you just lucked into something, someone else already did it. What do I have to say that's different than someone else's version of this? Incapability. All of those things are so painful to have to navigate, especially when you're trying to figure out, how can I do this for me? How can I step outside of my comfort zone? And what do I have to offer to the world that's any different than anyone else? This quote really, really resonates with me by Maya Angelou, and it says, I have written 11 books, but each time I think, uh-oh, I've run a game on everybody, and they're going to find me out. 11 books, and still feeling not good enough or fraudulent. I pulled up some celebrity quotes, and I think these are really important to go through because it just shows that we're not alone in this, and people who are wildly successful still struggle with this. Meryl Streep's quote of, "You think, why would anyone want to see me again in a movie? I don't know how to act anyway, so why am I doing this?" Jodie Foster's quote, "When I won an Oscar, I thought it was a fluke. I thought everybody would find out and they'd take it back. They'd come to my house knocking on the door. 'Excuse me, we meant to give this to Meryl Streep.'" Kate Winslet saying, "Sometimes I wake up in the morning before going off to a shoot and I think, I can't do this. I'm a fraud." These are people who have had massive success. And this comes up a lot in the performing arts community because you're putting yourself out there in front of people over and over and over again. Being seen is something that a lot of us struggle with. It can kind of evoke and elicit a shame response. We're putting ourselves out there to be perceived and seen by our peers or colleagues, family, friends, and that feels really scary. That feels really overwhelming. It's really challenging to feel like people I care about are going to judge me. They're going to find me out for who I am. They're going to call me out for being incompetent or incapable or fraudulent. I imagine that a lot of us who struggle with this have a team of support. friends, family, colleagues, all telling you that you can do this thing that you really struggle to do. They believe in you, but it's hard to believe in yourself. Their praise can almost seem like it's not genuine, that they are just kind of blowing smoke because they like you. I would try to question the nature of the relationship if your mind says, they're just telling me this because they like me. Would my friends and family and colleagues lie to me? Would they tell me these things that aren't true just to simply, stoke my ego or make me feel better about myself? And I would imagine the answer is no. Some techniques that I like that can be really useful. Saying yes to opportunities as they arise. So sometimes people would almost default to the fake it till you make it situation, but I don't love that mentality. I think just saying yes even when it feels really scary, because it is almost like exposure therapy. You're kind of desensitizing yourself to the process and the fear that comes up when you start to open yourself up to new opportunities and growth experiences. The only reason I'm doing these presentations is because of my massive fear of imposter syndrome and putting myself out there on camera. And I'm feeling that right now as I'm saying that. Self-compassion, being really kind to yourself, really giving yourself a break, trying hard to just recognize you're a human being who is trying. The process of trying is so courageous. That's where we build resiliency. That's where we build strength. Because if you can try and you fall down and pick yourself up, then you can learn how to move forward. If we don't try, we never grow. So using self-compassion techniques to kind of give yourself a break and pat yourself on the back and just be kind to yourself when you're feeling really vulnerable or like things are just not going well. Talking about it, having a mentor, a colleague, a therapist, just really talking about it. Becoming more comfortable with the process of saying, this is something that's coming up for me. I'm feeling really vulnerable around this, and really working hard towards navigating that. Because if we talk about it, we take back the power that it has over us instead of allowing it to dictate how we live our lives. I like tracking your successes so we can build up this evidence bank of all the things that I can do and that I've achieved or that I have done well or that I've at least tried to do. Putting them in a file folder on your computer, writing them in a journal, a notebook, whatever that looks like for you, but to have access to it. So when this imposter syndrome comes up, you can kind of navigate to this success folder of look at all the times I have done something challenging or really difficult. Knowing your triggers, so if you know when I start to do this thing, this is what comes up, preparing mentally to go into that experience with the recognition that this is going to evoke and elicit a lot of emotion for me. I'm going to feel more vulnerable writing this book. I'm going to feel more vulnerable giving this presentation. And that's where our self-compassion comes in, and we can say, I know. It's okay to feel that way. You knew this was going to happen. This is normal. Creating a new script in your head, positive affirmations, changing the pathways in our brain. So really having positive self-talk instead of that harsh criticism that comes up for you and amplifies. But really reframing and changing the voice. Giving yourself positive affirmation even if it doesn't feel genuine or authentic at first. Because what we want to do is we want to create new pathways in the brain so that you can feel like it's easier to access positivity. I like this image of falling down and getting back up again, right? I know when I first started to ride a bike, I was not successful. I fell over a lot. I probably drove into a lot of different stuff. But you keep getting up, and you keep trying. I remember being in ski club growing up in New York, and I didn't know how to stop. And I would intentionally crash into things so that I could fall over and start again. Because I could not figure it out. And instead of letting that paralyze me or be debilitating and never go back up the ski lift, it's okay, I'm going to fall over on purpose. I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to start again and I'm going to give it another go and another go. Life becomes really beautiful when we step outside of our comfort zones. And we really need to try hard not to compare ourselves to other people. Recognizing that, yeah, maybe I don't have the same following on social media as someone. Maybe I don't take the same vacations that someone else does. Maybe I'm not as advanced in my career as I'd like to be at this point in my life. Again, we're losing focus of the process. What has it taken to get to where I am at today? And the recognition that it does not have to be perfected or finished today. This process of growth is uncomfortable. And we have to step outside of our comfort zone in order to do so in a really beautiful way. Really like this Albert Einstein quote that says, "Anyone who never made a mistake never tried anything new." I feel like that really resonates. Anyone who never made a mistake never tried anything new. When I gave this presentation on Saturday, a friend of mine who is a very big Harry Potter fan brought up the image of a Bogart and the recognition that in order to face your fears, you have to play with your fear. You have to make it funny or humorous or childlike so that you can face these things that feel really overwhelming and intimidating and really scary. And you can move through them through repetition, through play, because that's what all of this is our inner child is saying, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel comfortable being seen. So really nurturing that part of ourselves saying like, I'm going to play. I'm going to play with this image of this fear so that I can kind of master it and move through it and tame it a little bit so it doesn't have so much control over me. I just really like these images about believing in yourself. And that's what this is about. Even when we feel like we can't do something, just really trying to just exhibit self-compassion and say yes to opportunity anyway. Say yes to that promotion without going down that perfectionistic rabbit hole of everything that could go wrong or every reason you don't deserve it or every reason that you shouldn't step outside of your comfort zone and make a change. When you're starting to notice those feelings come up, I want you to sit with those feelings and be kind to yourself, because that's what this is about. Making a change. Growth and discomfort come with change, hand in hand. And that's how we know we're on the right path. If those feelings start to come up, that's exactly what we're looking for. That's what we're moving through and moving past. So once again, just believing in yourself, really trying hard to combat the negative self-talk and allow yourself to have those positive resources and lists and just experiences that you can defer to when you're feeling overwhelmed or extra vulnerable. Just want to say thank you. I'm going to be doing another one of these live in a few weeks over Zoom. And I have a link for registration in my posts on my website and my page. And I'd love for you to attend. And I hope you have a good Monday, and I hope that this was helpful. So have a great day.